Welcome to Truth Talk Live.
All right, let's talk.
The truth is, I can't hide it, I can't hold it no more.
A daily program powered by the Truth Network,
This is kind of a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
where pop culture, current events, and theology all come together.
Speak
Your mind.
And now, here's today's Truth Talk Live host.
What would you tell someone who asked you, why does the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? Why does the Bible say that? That's the question today on Truth Talk Live. I really would. I absolutely am trying to learn. I would love your answer. 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. So why does the Bible say that a woman should not be in authority over a man? And the Bible does say that, and it actually says it in 1 Timothy 2:12. It says, "And I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man, but to be in silence, for Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived. But the woman, being deceived, fell into transgression. Nevertheless, she will be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with self-control." And I think, actually, that Paul had been studying something similar to what I had been studying. Because actually I was getting ready to do a sermon this week at our church, West Asheboro Baptist Church, on the election and some of the things about the election. And one of the biggest of being that we got to get out and vote. We got to, whatever it is you do think, by all means, we need to vote. And here's where the Bible tells you to do that. I don't know if you knew, but in Deuteronomy 1:13, it says clearly, choose wise men with understanding. This isn't like a suggestion; it's a commandment. And so, if you're going to choose, you got to vote. You got to make your choice known. So it says, choose you wise men and understanding, known among your tribes. I love that line. That's actually known. Somebody that. And the word there in Hebrew is yada, so that person would actually be very, very familiar to you, that you would be able to trust them as far as their wisdom and understanding and make them rulers over you. And so, the Bible gives us this unbelievable opportunity as obviously many forefathers did. But, if we believe the Bible and we believe that all Scripture is God-breathed, and you're a Christian and you're out there, and somebody might just come to you with this question of, why does the Bible say that and that can't be true, or whatever it is that they might say to you, what might your answer be? I really would. I would love to know your thoughts. For, against, whatever you got, I would love to hear it. 866-348-7884. The number to call in and share is 866-34-TRUTH. And so, from my standpoint, men and women are gigantically different. Thank goodness. Right? I mean, I'm really grateful for the difference. I'm sure you are too. That, and it even says in Genesis, right? In the beginning, God made them male and female, right? And so, we each, in my opinion, represent, we actually are made in the image of God in very unique ways. Obviously, men are in the image of God in a masculine form, and they're expected to bear masculine fruit. And women are wonderfully made in a feminine image of God and meant to bear feminine fruit. And there are differences. I'll bet you that you can relate to what I'm going to say. That if you, have children, and one of them is a very energetic young son, and that young son decides, for whatever reason, as young sons do, and I can picture myself doing this, that they want to jump off the roof. Right? Can you picture that, Nick? Now, that young son decides he wants to jump off the roof. Now, does he go to his dad and ask, "Dad, is it okay if I go jump off the roof?" Or does he go to mom and say, "Mom, is it okay if I jump off the roof?" I'm going to bet you, not all the time, but in most households, right? He's going to go to dad, right? His dad's going to be a little more adventurous, a little more, let's go do this. However, now once he jumps off the roof, and he breaks his leg or he gets hurt, whatever, he ain't running to dad like It's just a flesh wound, son, right? At this point in time, he's running to mom because mom has that compassion and she has those kind of thoughts. And she has, that ability to warm. In other words, when men are dying out there in the battlefield, they're crying for their mom, or may have heard the famous story of the prisoners that, all wanted Mother's Day cards, but when it came to Father's Day, they, just didn't have the same sentiment. And the idea is that what I'm sharing is that clearly there are differences. I've been thinking about this and trying to come up with my own answer, something that I would go, okay, that seems to hold water. But for you, what would you tell? I mean, honestly, what would you tell someone that asks you, like, Robbie, you're a Christian and you don't understand the Bible and you say that all Scripture is God believed and God breathed and useful for teaching and rebuking and all that. What do you do with this piece? Well, exactly what do you do with why does the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? And so, I just pictured this. Can you imagine, right? If you were Adolf Hitler, right? And I hope you can't imagine that for very long, but say you were, for the illustration of what I'm talking about. And you had a choice, like you were going to face up against Margaret Thatcher or, right? His name escaped me. How could that happen? The man he actually did face up against, Winston Churchill, right? Like, in this particular situation, would you want Margaret Thatcher running England, or would you want, right, Winston Churchill, as the case would be? Or you can imagine that, if you're up against Putin, right? Now, who is Putin going to respect, and who is going to carry more regard from that evil despot's point of view? Somebody that is strong, and not saying that a woman can't be. I'm just saying from that despot's point of view, you don't want him to think, well, they're being run by this, that whole situation. And that idea of, I'm just trying to understand. I know the Bible says it, I believe it, and I'm gonna go with that. But what would you say? What would you teach me? Because obviously I would love to learn. I hope you would too. And we need your calls, because I don't have a whole lot, other than I need you to come and help me. 866-348-7884. 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back with what would you tell someone who asks you, why does the Bible say that women shouldn't be in authority over a man? We'll be right back.
Truth Talk Live.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. And today's question, we would love for you to probe with us, love for you to teach me, as I'm always trying to learn something. But, I hope you're like me and you totally believe the Bible is God-breathed and every word of it is meant for instruction and is true. So why does the Bible tell us that why would the Bible tell us that women should not be in authority over a man? Why, and again, especially with the current election situation, why would the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? And believe me, I'm open to whatever it is you think, and I would love for you to call and tell us. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And again, I'm going from 1 Timothy 2:12, in case you wonder where that is in the Bible. It's in 1 Timothy 2:12, and it says, "And I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a man, but to be in silence. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman, being deceived, fell into transgression." And so, fortunately, I have another pastor with me. Might help me out a little bit. But he also has a big announcement what's going on in his church. But before you do that, Pastor, help me out here. What do you say about that?
Can you hear me?
I hear you great. This is Pastor Taylor with, is it Bible Fellowship? Tell me the name of your church again.
L.C. Taylor, and it's Bible Fellowship Baptist Church in Parktown, North Carolina.
There you go. So what say you about why the Bible says that?
Well, I had someone bring this up before, and they said, well, was God a male or female? And this person said, well, when you get to heaven, you can ask her. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got it.
Well, I think that God has a rule. I believe the Bible is the inspired, infallible Word of God, and it provides for us the principles that we all must live by. But I do believe there have been times in history, and I believe there are times currently where there have been no men to stand up and be leaders, and God did use women. He used Esther. He used the other, what was the queen's, not the queen, but the
Deborah.
other lady's name, Deborah.
Yeah.
He used her. And I know in my ministry, had it not been for women stepping up to the plate, having been a missionary and starting 2 churches, had it not been for the women in our assembly, we could have done very little. So I think there's the rule that if you have those people available, we need to follow that precisely. But sometimes, just like in a single-family home, a mother would find herself having to teach her son because there was no father available. So I think there are some situations where it's justifiable and probably needful that ladies be used in that capacity. But I think the rule is that every church ought to be pastored by a male. And honestly, I believe that our country, no offense to any woman listening or any previous leader that was a lady or that's handling a leadership position, but I do believe that there is a special place, a particular place for men in leadership, and also there's a place for women as well. I do believe that we need to follow God's word. If we get away from that too much, we're going to get in big trouble. And I think that's part of the reason churches are in such a dilemma today. People have begun to create their own interpretations and actually versions of the Bible to make them comfortable with their own personal choices. So I don't know if I've said anything that helps. Or
Oh,
if
it's
I've
all
muddied
that,
the
you know,
water.
I'm on the same page with you. And I think absolutely that women have stepped into in our church as well, and in my life in so many different ways, that, oh my goodness, we definitely need them. And they definitely, when men don't step up, you know, God provides somebody. You know, he raises them up, obviously, and arguably Queen Esther was the most powerful Jewish leader ever, right? 127 provinces. She had a lot more people under her rule than Solomon. So I don't know.
And Robbie, I had a lady missionary that we supported for years. She had never married, but she had gone to Africa to minister, and she literally trained pastors to take over churches. She would not do that, but she would train pastors.
Wow.
Because there was really no men there to do the training. Years ago, we had more people ready to go to the mission field, like male characters like Hudson Taylor and so forth. But now, you know, not only are we seeing many churches deserted by people, but we're seeing many ministries deserted by pastors. And I can only imagine some of the great needs there are in mission fields for people to just go and train leaders for the churches.
That's a great point. That's a great point. But you also, since you're going to make a great point, your church has got some stuff going on to help Western North Carolina, right?
I really appreciate the opportunity. We are a small congregation, but I believe every little bit helps. We're located at 4950 Warner Road. That's just behind Reagan High School, off of Highway 67. But what we're doing from October the 12th through October the 28th, we'll be collecting non-perishable items for the victims of Helene, and it looks like now we may have people for Milton as well. But for right now, we're focused on the Carolina mountains and the people in that area. It's a very catastrophic event that's taking place, and we want to do our part. So we're inviting the community, and we have a few people in our community helping us. So we're inviting the community, anyone on Facebook or in your audience that are hearing about this, if they'd like to donate, they can call me personally at 336-462-4844. We can have them bring the items by the church and drop that off. And if they call me, I can arrange a special time to collect that for them. But we just want to help in any way we can with non-perishable items. This Saturday, we have a chicken stew at 5 o'clock. So we're going to start it then and have a big container where if people come for the chicken stew, they can also bring some items to donate to that cause. But that's what we're trying to do, Robbie.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Again, why don't you give that phone number one more time, Pastor?
It's 336-462-4844. It's Bible Fellowship Baptist Church, and we have a website, bfbcnow.org. that they can get some information from our website about our church.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Again, thank you, Pastor. I appreciate your call so much today, your wisdom. And so apparently...
thank you, brother, for all you do, and thank God for the radio station.
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing to have that, where it's reaching so many people with the truth.
I appreciate it. We really do. God bless. All right, what would you say? Thank you. What would you say? Why would you tell someone who asks, why does the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? Victoria, call back. We didn't get a chance to get to you.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live. We're so glad that you've tuned in today, and we would love your input. We really, really would. I would be very anxious to hear what your thoughts are on the whole idea of what would you tell someone who asks you, why does the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? And, you know, we had Victoria calling in. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to her quick enough, and I hope she'll call back. I would love a woman's perspective. I'd love a woman's perspective on this. And I think that what Pastor had said is clearly the case, that so many times in the Bible, you know, men didn't step up. And when they didn't, God raised up a woman to kind of embarrass us. Or however it's supposed to be, I don't know. He definitely raised them up, and they were some of the greatest leaders out there. And so along those lines, you know, I would love whoever has a view on this to call in and share and give us some idea, because I think it's important that we are prepared. We are ready for someone who comes to us that says, well, you believe everything in the Bible. Why do you believe this? You know, what's behind that? Or what are your thoughts? We would love to hear you, 866-348-7884. And so yesterday we did this show on, you know, what if we were as burdened by spiritual needs as we are physical needs, talking about, you know, both and. In other words, yes, we absolutely need to be on the way to the Western North Carolina with water, everything in the world we possibly can. But what if we also did that in Jesus' name? What if we also found a way to share in that given situation? And we just had one of the most remarkable calls come in from a lady by the name of Kaylin, who is with Christ in Crisis Ministries. And talk about a woman who has stepped up, you know, as she had talked about going into war-torn Ukraine, and to set up the soundbite I got, and we're going to play it here in a minute because it looks like we got a caller, which I'd really like to get. But this lady that she had met in the Ukraine had unfortunately been sitting at this house with her husband at the table when they blew out the wall, killing her husband, filling her back with shrapnel, breaking nearly every bone in her body. And, you know, how she responded to that will show amazing leadership, no doubt. And we'll get to that in a minute. But right now we have Jennifer is in Ohio who has an answer for my question. Jennifer, you're on Truth Talk Live. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are.
If it says it in the Bible, you listen. That's the way you live.
That is.
That's it.
And so have you ever had that situation, Jennifer, where somebody asked about this particular topic?
Oh, yes, and they want to argue about it, and just like, I don't know if you want to call me old school or whatever, but I also believe women should be at home raising their children, and that's why the world's in the situation it's in now. It's a mess.
Yeah, I would agree. It sure is tragic, all that's gone on with so many different situations, and it's an interesting thing. I many marriage conferences you would go to and that kind of thing where they're trying to help men and women get along.
Exactly.
And they often say that, and it says in the Bible, right, that women are to respect their husbands, but men are to love their wives. In other words, men, in order to feel safe or whatever, need to feel like they're being respected, to feel appreciated, to have, like somebody has regard or respect for them, where women, in order to feel like they belong and where they need to feel loved. And so you can see where if you got, somebody that wants to do some evil needs to have some respect for their enemy.
Exactly.
And so that's part of what I've been thinking through. I don't know. I'm just so grateful for your call, and keep up the good work out there.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. God bless. So what say you? What is your thought? 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. Into why does the Bible say that? Why does it say that woman should not be in authority over a man? And how does that work practically? As the pastor said, sometimes there are no men to step up, and so women do that beautifully. And I have this soundbite that we had yesterday that I know is worth repeating, because, man, when you do something in Jesus' name, this lady did it so well. Have we got 3 minutes to play it? Okay, let's play it.
Well, I think of a story that kind of answers the question. When we were in Ukraine and we were in Orehov handing out all the aid, I met this one woman, this older woman. She had crutches and a wheelchair, but she sometimes would use her crutches. And I just came up to her and was giving her the aid, and we started sharing. And I asked her, how are you? How have you been? And before I knew it, she started sharing about her being in the middle of dinner with her husband and a bomb falling right next to her house and completely blowing up the side of her home, killing her husband and shooting her back. And she broke almost all the bones in her body. And so when I had met her, she's been under recovery. And so she's finally can do a little bit with her crutches, but is in constant pain. And she's sharing this with me. Her name's Sweet Leva. She was sharing this with me, and you have no words. What do you even say to that? Like,
right.
Oh yeah, me too. In America, when I was riding my bike, I fell off of it. Like, what do I even have to say to that? And so I just looked her in the eyes and I said, I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. Do you know that there's someone that's taken on the pain of the world, that's taken on all this pain? And she was like, What do you mean? Who are you talking about? And I was like, well, Jesus. And she kind of made a face and was like, what do you mean he took on all the pain? And so I was able to share the full gospel with her, that he died for her, that he took the pain on the cross, and how you can have a personal relationship with him. And when I was done sharing, I had a translator with me, and when I was done sharing amongst, the bombing and everything going on, I was like, did she even understand what I said? Like, the translation? Well, when I'm done sharing, she says, can I receive this? Like, can I start a relationship with Jesus? Like, I want to ask for forgiveness of my sins. And I, of course, said, yes,
no.
Yes. So she prayed to receive Jesus with me. We had 3 ways going on. I said something, the translator, then her. So she prayed to receive Christ. And I opened my eyes. Oh, sorry, something I didn't mention. Ever since I had seen her from the very beginning, her hands wouldn't stop shaking. They wouldn't, and she said they'd been shaking since the war broke out. And once she prayed to receive Jesus, I opened my eyes, and she is crying, and she's smiling for the first time. I hadn't seen her smile yet. And I look at her hands, and her hands are completely still. And she looks at me, and she says, I have a peace I've never felt before. And you would think she would have had this peace, right? When everything was good, there was no war, everything was happy. Yet she has a peace she's never experienced before in the midst of a war. And I think this just points to the realness of God, because to give you peace that you've never experienced before when everything is awful physically, yet in your heart and in your spirit you have peace, that points to how real Jesus is.
Yeah, how real Jesus is, for sure. And that soundbite was from yesterday's show that we did on, if we were as burdened by people's spiritual needs as their physical needs. And that was Kaylin with Christ in Crisis. It's an unbelievable ministry. But as we're talking about this today, what would you tell someone that they ask you, why does the Bible say that women shouldn't be in authority over a man? And we were talking about the differences between men and women, and when you listen to Kaylin in that situation, you hear the compassion that she had for that lady in that situation. And for such a time as this, God had her there. She had been obedient to go over there in a war area, right? I mean, how courageous could she be? And then with complete compassion for that lady, for that moment, right? It comes through absolutely beautiful with the gifts that God had given her. However, men are different, right? And we don't have the same gifts of compassion and other things in the way that God made women, but we have other gifts. And you may have heard that I think I'm trying to think how they put it. Women are spaghetti and men are something else. In other words, women have all sorts of neurons in their brains that are connected. And so if you were to talk to my wife, she always is thinking about 4 or 5 things kind of all at the same time. And she has got a lot of things that are relationally going on that she's thinking about. So, and the idea of that is, I think as a mother, you need to know, the baby's out, the baby's sleeping or whatever they need to know about. But men, their brains can get on one track and you can't get them on. He's trying to watch TV and you're trying to talk to him. That ain't working so good because his focus is on the TV because his brain is a little bit different than that. And they will even tell you that men have what they call a nothing box. In other words, I can just be sitting there thinking about nothing. And my wife was like, you're there, aren't you? I can't get through to you because you're in Nothingville, whatever. But that has a benefit if you're in the middle of a war and you're trying to block out all the other stuff going on so that you can go attack. All those things are, I don't know, but I would love your answer. What would you tell someone who asks, why does the Bible say that women should not be in authority over a man? We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk Live with today's topic / question that I would love your input on is why, somebody comes up to you and they know you believe the Bible and you believe, what it says. And they say to you, why does the Bible say that a woman should not be in authority over a man? In other words, quoting 1 Timothy 2:12, and they're trying to get your understanding of that. What would you tell them? I would love your thoughts. We got Mike and his wife, so we have a couple's perspective. I'm very excited about this. So, Mike, let's take your wife first. What's your wife's? Is it Mrs. Mike? I know it's not. So
it's Tammy.
Tammy.
Yeah,
Tammy. I
Tammy.
love that name. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yes, we have wives with the same name, so I can relate. Tammy, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. So let us have it. Tell us what you think.
I feel that a woman should not be president. That's how I feel. I just feel that, I don't know. I just feel that a man should be running the country, not a woman. Even though I'm a woman, but I just don't feel that a woman should be doing that.
Well, thank you for your perspective. I appreciate that. And interestingly, the other caller we had from Ohio had the similar idea. The Bible says it, I believe it, and, that settles it, so to speak. But
yeah, that too.
Well, and Robbie, it's Mike, and we've been discussing this, and I really believe that the woman or my wife should be in charge of the home. You know what I mean? She should take care of our house, and she make the decisions on the colors of the wall and the flooring, and make it her castle. And I should love her for doing that. And I think that's biblical, don't you think?
Oh, well, Proverbs 31 is pretty clear that, that woman is picking out all the purple and stuff. So, I'm totally with you. And I know that when it comes to those kind of things, oh, my wife is fantastic. And I am hopelessly, like, I would keep that same chair for, since I was a kid. But she loves doing that. And obviously, it's a real gift. But the thing I was, thinking that, and tell me what you think about this, that if you were a burglar and you were going down a street and you saw a big burly man in this house and a big burly man in that house and a big burly man in that house, and over here was a woman, even though she looked like she was fairly fit, which house would you be most likely to rob? Right? Now, that's a person with evil intent. I'm not talking about me, but just he's looking over the situation, and under the circumstances, it has to do with the regard that the burglar has for men versus women, not anything else. And so when you have enemies, we do have enemies in this country, whether we want to admit it or not, and they're looking over our country and they see this situation, they have a different perspective if they don't have the same idea that, man, that guy in the White House is not anybody to mess with. And I would hope, whoever we elect as president, and I'll support him 100%, I can assure you that person would have that idea of the people that would come against us, that is not somebody I would want to mess with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And nobody messed with Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I really believe that too, and so does my wife. I mean, I believe that women could teach in the church and teach and be all that stuff. We both agree. We've been discussing this the whole time you've been on the radio, and what the rules of women are, what the rules of men are. And
I can assure you that women stand up in the gap many, and they did biblically. And that's absolutely marvelous. And some of the teaching I've received has been spectacular. Because they can have insight that only they can have.
Right. They're men and women have unique gifts. Believe me, I've been married 38 years, and I don't know if I could go through life without my wife.
You got me beat by 2 years, Mike.
Well,
but that's good. I'm with you. I'm with you. But you couldn't be more right that every single person is got something very unique and special in a way that they reflect God. And actually, if they don't reflect it, no one else can. Right? And so every woman has something to offer in their perspective, their insight in worship, their insight in Bible understanding. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but Leah, who was Jacob's, sort of second wife, but really the first wife, they said that she had weak eyes. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
In the book of Genesis. And what the Jews teach about that is the reason that she had weak eyes was that she never came out of the tent because she was always studying Torah. And she was fair-skinned, and so Rachel watched the sheep and that kind of stuff because Leah was studying the writings of, Adam and Seth and whoever, they had at the time, I don't know, but, that was her deal. And so you can imagine that, for Jacob to have, that kind of Bible understanding, and somebody that's constantly studying. And I when I was, and I still do a devotion at a retirement home in Moxville. And I had this lady, I met her when she was about 80, because that's about the time I started doing devotions there, and she died when she was 104. And she read the Bible through at least twice a year her whole life.
Oh, wow.
And she was a leader from a standpoint of, I can tell you that I've never met anybody with a Bible understanding that she had. And I've never met anybody that could rebuke you in such a kind way. I'll tell you a story about it. I had done this devotion, and she comes up to me afterwards and she says, Robbie, you're such a gifted, anointed speaker. I can tell you that you are going to do great things for the kingdom of God. I just love you, love you, love you. So why, when you have all those gifts, would you use a word like golly? I was like, really? I'm not supposed to use the word golly? And she said, oh, no, that's a euphemism for the word. You would never, ever, ever take the most holy of names. And she rebuked me in such kindness. I mean, you could tell it was just purely because she loved me and purely because she was trying to encourage me. And, where do you get that kind of friend, Where do you...
Right. It's a great story. Yeah. It's just, I asked my wife about things about the Bible and different things and what I should do with my neighbor. How should I be?
Right.
There's,
since we got her right here, Tammy, what should he do about, is it Chris?
Yeah. Chris,
your neighbor that we prayed for yesterday? What do you think, Tammy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, about talking about God?
Yeah.
Oh. He should keep doing it. You know?
And just be over there and be a friend, right?
Yeah, be a friend.
Yeah.
And, and keep talking to him about it, because I'm sure that he said he's like listening to him and stuff. He might really, accept Jesus,
So,
he's talking to him.
Right. And my wife has given me advice to, go, even though, he's not a Christian, that I should go over and be friends and sit on the porch with him and talk to him about politics. And that's what we're going to do. That's, I did ask for my wife's advice about this, and she's, it's just she's there for me. That's what God has designed, that the wife should be there.
As a helper, right? Like right by your side with, because believe me, I don't know if your wife's like mine, but I forget to do this, and
she's laughing
about 1,000 times a day. She's like, "Did you forget to look? Did you Thank goodness, man. I mean, like, oh my goodness."
Yeah.
So, it's an amazing thing. We are, as Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, that we're to be salt and light. And I don't know if you knew this, but when the Jews would do an offering, it always had to have salt on the meat, right? And the whole idea of kosher salt is the reason why it's called kosher salt is it makes meat kosher, all right? They got to coat it in that salt. But salt, amongst its many qualities that you may have heard in many sermons, one of them is it decomposes blood, right?
Right.
In fact, they're not allowed to put water on meat before they put the salt on it, because they want the blood, because they don't want to eat any of the blood from the animal. That was the commandment. And so when you think about it, when you're over there being salt, you're helping him point towards the place where he really can dissolve that blood situation he's got and take on Jesus's blood, which would be, totally cleansed. Is that cool?
Yeah, that is cool. That is very cool.
And the other thing and
the light as well. Yeah.
The thing I understood this week from that same study was that the Jews, after they put the salt on the meat in the temple back in the days of the temple, what they did was they would take that salt after it was decomposed with the blood, and they poured it on the steps so the priest didn't slip. So that's what happened to the unsalty salt. It got under the feet. Anyway, we have that opportunity out there this week as people come up with these tough questions. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tammy. Appreciate you so much. God bless everyone.
Another program powered by the Truth Network.